Hello, this is Dr. Huffstader, and today I wanted to talk to you about something that I think is very timely and very germane right now, because last week the federal government, an agency of the federal government, did indicate that they were now going to recommend that the fluoride count in municipal water supplies, at least water supplies that fluoridate water, which is about half of them in the United States, lower the concentration of fluoride by almost half because of evidence, overwhelming evidence, that fluoride causes damage, and specifically the damage that they cited. This is the Federal Department of Health and Human Services. Specifically, the damage that they cited was the problem with dental fluorosis. And you've seen this before, this dental fluorosis, this splotchy modeling of the teeth. And they suggested that we reduce, or not, they didn't suggest, they required that we reduce the amount of fluoride inside fluoridated drinking supplies. And this is good news. And I've been talking for several years now about the dangers of fluoridation. And I'll tell you, worth talking about now, because the dangers of fluoridation are much more serious and go far beyond just the simple discoloration of teeth. Fluoridation in this country, and I don't want to get into all the politics and the history of fluoridation. You can look at that yourself, and someday we may do a video on that. But go ahead and look at that yourself. And if you do, I warn you, you may come away with it quite angry. But the history of fluoridation in this country is quite a story to read about. But that is what it is. We have fluoridation in about half of our water supplies in this country. And the damage caused by fluoridation is relatively severe. And I want to talk to you about just a couple things that fluoridation does, or that fluoride in drinking water does. Number one, fluoride, and it's well established and well documented, and I encourage you to read about this yourself as well. Fluoride, it's been well established, will lower the intelligence quotient. It will lower the IQ, especially of the developing brain. And you can look at studies of that, and there are ways to defend against that if your child is drinking fluoridated water. But the very best way to defend against it is not to expose them to fluoride to begin with, certainly not to be swallowed. The second problem with fluoride is that fluoride, in quantities that we're talking about in drinking water, the higher quantities in drinking water, will damage the thyroid gland, especially in conjunction with iodine deficiency, which is pretty common in this country. If you consume iodized salt, you probably take in enough iodine to keep you from growing a frank goiter, a swollen thyroid gland in the neck, a big swollen neck. But just the absence of a goiter does not in and of itself indicate an iodine sufficiency. By the time a goiter is growing, we are significantly bereft of iodine. So, and why is that? What is the relationship between fluoride and iodine? Well, if you look on the periodic table of elements, which you may or may not remember from your high school chemistry class, the periodic table of elements has second to the end, on the right-hand side in the column there, second to the last column, a group of chemicals, a group of elements that are known as the halogens. The halogens. And the halogens are fluoride, chloride, bromide, iodide, or fluorine, chlorine, bromine, and iodine. Now, these all are in the same period. They're all in the same group, because they look the same, they act the same, they behave the same chemically, they behave the same biochemically. Now, iodine is extremely important for the health of every single cell in your body. Every cell in your body requires iodine, but especially the thyroid gland, and in women also the breasts and the ovaries. But for every human being, and for women as well, the thyroid gland is the #1 consumer of iodine in your body. It concentrates massive quantities of iodine in the thyroid gland, and in fact it makes thyroid hormone out of this iodine. If we are deficient in iodine and consume high quantities of fluoride, the thyroid gland will concentrate fluoride in its tissues and attempt to make thyroid hormone from this fluoride. It doesn't work very well, and in fact it poisons every cell that it comes in contact with, but mostly it poisons and damages the thyroid gland. Now the good news is that your thyroid gland does have a higher affinity for iodine than it does fluoride, so if you have adequate quantities of iodine in your body, the amount of fluoride you take in will mean less because you will concentrate iodine instead of fluoride into these cells, and the fluoride will basically just be flushed out. Still may cause damage, but it will be flushed out. By the way, those high levels of iodine probably have something to do with keeping the fluoride from diminishing the intelligence of the developing brain, because we know that children who have sufficient amounts of iodine tend to have a higher IQ than the kids who did not. And that may have something to do with displacing the damage that fluoride causes to the developing brain. So, what are adequate levels of iodine, do you ask? Well, how much iodine do I need to make sure I'm consuming to offset the effects of the fluoride I take in, because I know my water is fluoridated? Well, if you look at the recommended daily allowance of iodine, you'll see that the recommended daily allowance is about, and I haven't looked it up in a while, but I think it's about 250 micrograms. It might be 300, but it's measured in micrograms. This is a scant amount of iodine. What we recommend for people, especially if they're exposed to fluoride, to have iodine sufficiency is to consume somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 to 18 milligrams of iodine. So we're talking something like 30 times the amount of iodine as what is the recommended daily allowance. 30 times, 3,000%. How do you get that much iodine? Well, the best sources of iodine we know of are the sea vegetables and seafoods in general. So kelp and seaweeds and these seaweed salads, things like that you can find at sushi bars and so forth. These are great sources of iodine. If you don't want to consume seaweed salad, which many people don't, especially in the United States, you can take iodine supplements. Beware, they're not all made the same. There are two that I can comfortably recommend. One is a liquid tincture called Lugel's solution, which you can find in some health food stores. Usually it's mail order, however. And the second is a tablet that's put together by a company called Standard Process, and their product is called prolamine iodine, and the prolamine iodine is about 3 milligrams per tablet. So, I hope this is helpful. I hope you learned something about iodine. I'll look forward to doing another one of these soon. Thank you for listening. I truly appreciate you. If I can do anything to help you, don't hesitate to contact me. You can get a hold of me through my website, which is drhuffstater.com. God bless. Have a great day.